AK-47, the very best there is, when you absolutely positively got to kill every motherfucker in the room except no substitutes. Welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast. We are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching movies. I'm your host, Jeff Hornacek. Thank you for joining us for our 82nd episode. We are very glad to have you. Before we get started with the movie discussion, as is tradition, let's go around and meet the fellow bro tonight since Brian Boehner can't join us. No pod is complete, of course, without our enforcer in the paint, my partner, Matt Geiger. Now, Geiger, I am currently having an issue with my apartment complex, and I think we're way past sending emails at this point. So as a certified enforcer, I think you have your license in that, what would your advice be to me to intimidate someone into doing what I want them to do?
Do they have kids and a family?
It's a great question. Let's just assume one of the two.
Well, there you go. Sometimes you got to play hardball, Jeff, to get what you want out of this life.
It's like, do they have young children? Yeah, well, we found the chink in the armor, haven't we?
But of course, before you do anything crazy, always call Cycly. Just kind of let him know what you're doing, and then he'll always say the same thing. Dude, I don't want to know this. Just call me whenever you're in jail.
Yeah, he actually gave me a separate number for, I think, a burner phone of his to call. I don't know if he's given you that number, but was calling him so much with shit like this. He was like, all right, I don't have like long distance.
So I have a tattooed on my forearm, so when they take my cell phone in prison, I get one call, I'll still remember it.
Dude, I actually thought about this the other day. If they said you get one call in prison, I don't even have your fucking number memorized.
I have no clue who I'd call.
I think I'd have to call my mom. I think I have her number memorized, but
I don't have my parents' number memorized. I have my own phone memorized. That's it.
There you go. You could check your voicemails.
I guess, yeah.
That'd be nice. All right, if you have not listened to our show before, or even if you have, you know that we start every episode off with the most important thing in any bro's life, and that is chest day. So as you could probably tell from the title of this episode, our chest day topic begins with a quote, and it is, "I think when it comes to theatrical movies, I've come to the end of the road." End quote. That quote, I've said quote a lot already, is from director Quentin Tarantino and published by The Hollywood Reporter this past week. For decades, Tarantino has been adamant that his career behind the camera would only span 10 films. These are for movies he's written and directed, but he may not even make it to 10, as in that recent interview, the Oscar-winning filmmaker suggested his upcoming film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which you and I both have hard-ons for, starring Leo, Brad Pitt, and Margot Robbie, could be his directorial swan song. So, Geiger, you are probably the biggest Tarantino head that I know. And obviously, I and Banner both certainly appreciate his work. I love especially his recent films. So with it now being a very real possibility that this next movie we're getting in about 2 weeks, I think it's the 25th that it comes out, will be the last that he'll ever both write and direct. Few things we had to discuss. And I'll just start it off with the first one. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, how excited are you for this movie? And does hearing this quote change that at all? Make you more excited, or was that even possible?
Hearing the quote doesn't really make me more or less excited. I just think he's playing hardball with the quote. I think he's just really trying to get Star Trek. I think he's going to make one more film. We'll get into that a little later, but how anticipated am I for this? I've been on record saying that this is going to be his best movie ever. This is going to be for a person that is into these sort of movies, meaning a person that doesn't have a problem with violence or cussing, or they like... I don't even know how to describe Tarantino films, but when I'm talking to the people right now, they know what I mean. This is probably going to be in a top 5 movie discussion of movies all time. Greatest movies ever. In my discussion, it would be right now, like Ocean's 11, those fucking type of movies. I mean, just movies that are perfect throughout. They're greatly casted. They're deep on the bench. The 8th actor build is now has an Oscar in his fucking locker. It's going to be that type of movie for me. So as far as anticipation goes, I would say I'm anticipating this movie as it's going to be one of the greatest movies of all time. I think I'm going to go see the next Casablanca. I think I'm going to go see the next movie where that kid loses his fucking sled that everyone thinks is really good that I don't fucking know.
Is that Citizen Kane? Spoilers for Citizen Kane, I guess?
That's what I'm expecting to go and fucking see. I'm expecting to see a great story thought throughout with no fucking holes or plot holes or anything, that's well told with great acting, great music behind it, great
great score. This is going to be a 10 out of 10 movie. That's what I'm expecting. And honestly, with Tarantino, he's never really disappointed me. I'll say Django Unchained is exactly what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be a 9 out of 9 movie. It was. I would think Inglourious Basterds be a 9 out of 9. This one raises the bar, though. With the acting, just the story set in 60s Hollywood, it raises the bar a full point into the 10s. And I think it'll be a 10 out of 10 movie.
Yeah, first off, I hope someone emails us and says, fuck you for spoiling Citizen Kane. It's only been out for 100 years. Like, give me time to go watch it. So you and I are, I'm a big Tarantino fan, but I think you and I like different of his movies, much different amounts. Like, I really like The Hateful Eight, and I know you like it, but I totally get people that can't get through that movie. Like, it goes like molasses, but Tarantino dialogue is what I think makes his film so unique. But will say this, the marketing for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has this like energy to it that it just something about it, man, it gets you buzzing. Like, it's probably the cast that's insane, but something about this story, I feel like I'm going to be in the theater and the entire time I'm going to be like, this is an incredible piece of filmmaking. You and I talked about how I just cannot imagine leaving that theater disappointed. Like, there's just no way, right?
I guess the thing I hate is the only thing I've heard is there's 2 big twists. I hate hearing that because then if one of the twists you don't like, I like to just go to a movie completely blind. I like to go to a completely blind. I wish I knew there wasn't even one twist. I would figure there would be in a Tarantino movie, but that's the only thing I'm kind of scared of because I'm thinking, oh my God, are these 2 twists just going to blow my mind? And then you start looking out for them, which is never good. But
that was when the Saw movies started to get more disappointing because you're like looking for this crazy twist. But sadly, we're so like balls deep in the internet in 2019 that it's like so impossible to avoid hearing stuff like that, which isn't even technically a spoiler, but you kind of get a little tip of like they kind of tip you off as to what's coming.
There's no way this movie will be bad. No fucking way.
Impossible. All right, so the second thing I want to talk about, you kind of touched on this earlier, but do you believe Tarantino about this being his last movie, or do you think this is sort of just I don't want to say a marketing ploy, because I don't think it's disingenuous. Like, you can change your mind, of course. I want more fucking Tarantino movies always. But do you think this is just something he's saying to drum up excitement for this film 2 weeks before its release? Or I guess 3 weeks when he had the quote.
The only little bit I believe is that he probably just sat down and drank whatever the fuck he drinks, probably scotch, and think, how could I top this movie with my 10th movie? For one, I'll give you an hour. I'll give you 2 hours. I mean, obviously we don't have that much time, but comment below a better acting duo than Pitt and DiCaprio. You can't. There's no way he can fucking top this.
The only thing I could think would be in their heyday, Pacino and De Niro, like in their prime.
Yeah, but they've already hooked up so many fucking times. Like, Pitt and DiCaprio have never even been in a movie together, which is fucking insane to think about. So that's the only thing I could think. He's been adamant he wants to do a Star Trek movie. I think.
But see, I think and again, this isn't like a law. Like, he doesn't have to stop at 10. He just said this, I think, before Django. Yeah. 10 written and directed, and the whole point of the Star Trek one is, if he directs it would be his script. But I think you could easily put an asterisk on that. Like, this is an existing IP and an existing franchise. I'm going to do 10 of my original ideas, which everyone would be totally fine with. At least I would be.
Tino, like, I think I know him, which I've never even met the man in real life.
We're best friends with him.
But when he said, I'm stopping at 10, he had 10 scripts already fucking almost done. I think he's going to do another one. However, and we'll get to this in a little bit, my favorite Tarantino films aren't really the ones he wrote and directed. It's the ones he either did one or the other. So if he's I know
one you're a huge
writing or directing, so I have no problem.
And again, it's not like the cops are going to come to his house and fucking handcuff him if he makes an 11th movie, at least that I know of, which I'm not 100%. All right, so let's just get right into this. Now, I think you and I have talked a long time ago about doing this, and we still will. I think we do eventually want to do, with Thurmond especially, an episode where we rank our Tarantino films. So we won't get that in the weeds here, because I definitely want to tease the fans and save that for a future episode. But of the original Tarantino movies, and by original I mean he wrote the script and directed it, which one is your favorite? And I'll just read the list for the people at home so they don't have to look it up. We have Reservoir Dogs at 92, Pulp Fiction in 94, Jackie Brown in 97, which I feel like is very forgotten.
Yeah, that's
Kill Bill in 2003. I'm assuming they count both of those as one because they're volume 1 and 2.
yeah.
I'm not sure how that works. Death Proof in 2007, which I think is by far his worst movie. Inglourious Bastards in '09, Django in 12, and The Hateful Eight in 2015. So of those, which is your favorite Tarantino movie and why?
So just to kind of talk about Death Proof really quick, that was a double feature he did with Rodriguez. It was supposed to be kind of a spoof movie of just gory monster movies that they watched as kids whenever they go to a drive-in movie. So he
Was
actually,
Rodriguez like Machete Kills or something?
yeah,
The
that
one
was
he
the
did?
one with Rose McGowan that had the
Danny
machine gun
Trejo.
leg.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, those movies, if you kind of have watched those, it was supposed to be bad. It's supposed to be like good and it's so I'll defend him on that one. My favorite one, bar none, I have to do Pulp Fiction, and don't call me a Tarantino fan for picking his number one hit, but that movie is just so fucking fantastic, and I mean, I watched it the other day. Reservoir Dogs, I went back and watched. I like it. It's just it doesn't have as many layers and just I don't think as good a dialogue as Pulp Fiction. And Kill Bills are okay. I'm not a big fan. Inglourious Basterds, Django. And 2007, 2009, he fucking ruled. I almost did Django because I fucking love Django Unchained. It was the greatest probably decision ever in cinema history to cast Jamie Foxx instead of Will Smith because he did a fantastic job. And
Right.
Hateful Eight, like you said, is a good movie. It's just a little slow for me. So Pulp Fiction for me, bar none.
It's tough to top Pulp Fiction. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I've seen Jackie Brown ever, so I feel
I
bad
have it
because
on. It's you'd be surprised. It's
even though
a
I
lot of
quoted it to start the show.
yeah, a lot of these movies they're just way different movies. It's so weird. They all kind of have a certain dialogue, I guess, but they take place in so many different time zones that it's kind of I don't know. He's an artist for sure.
So my favorite movie, I wanted to pick The Hateful Eight, I really did, but then I was like, I'll be too contrarian to do that because that movie is slow as molasses, but somehow it keeps me captivated. Walton Goggins is so good in that. Kurt Russell is so good in that, but it's just like all dialogue. So I was thinking, what's a movie that combines Tarantino's patented incredible dialogue and tension building with a great cast and a really interesting story, and it's Inglourious Bastards. I mean, people forget all the time that Fassbender is in that uh, and is incredible in it. But Christoph Waltz gives like probably a top three movie performance I've ever seen in Inglourious Bastards. Like I would put it up there with Heath Ledger's Joker performance. How good Christoph Waltz is in that movie, and that was my introduction to Christoph Waltz. I had never seen him in anything else before that. And he completely steals the show. The opening scene where he's like, "Can I have a glass of your milk?" And he knows that the Jewish girl is under the floorboard.
There's no music either. It's just the like the creak of the floorboard and shit.
Right, which builds tension because in real life, if there's a Nazi in your house and everyone's scared shitless that he's going to kill you and the girl under your floorboards, like there's not an orchestral score that you can hear. And Tarantino
Yep.
somehow gets like this is going to freak people the fuck out. And then when Fassbender is pretending to be a Nazi and he's at the bar and he's trying to blend in with those guys, the tension there because you know everybody's bullshitting everybody and you're just waiting for somebody to get shot in the head. He just does such a good job of like making you feel nervous while you're like smiling and laughing at the same time. I don't know. It's like a the only thing I could compare to it is maybe like Coen Brothers dialogue in some of their films.
How good these movies are. Like I said, I just watched Django last week, and I was like, damn, that might be his best movie. And I had to rewatch Pulp Fiction. Like anytime you watch one of these movies, you're like, I don't know, that might be his best one because all of them are so good, so deep, so character driven.
Yeah. And the thing I like about him, every time you watch one of his movies, I feel like there's something small you pick up on that you didn't see
Yeah.
before, which is also great. All right, last thing, and then obviously anything else you have that you want to bring up. But I think the defining trait of Tarantino's movies is that they're very polarizing. Like you could sit here and watch it with somebody, and scenes that you laugh at or that make you nervous, other people might not have that same emotion at all, or even get it. Like The Hateful Eight, I could see somebody sitting through that movie and like some people, maybe like film students, would be like, "This is incredible and needs to be like enshrined in the movie Hall of Fame." And then other people could sit through and be like, "What is this? Like a fucking art project? What is this?" Why do you think Tarantino's style is so? I don't want to say hit or miss because I think it appeals to a larger audience than we realize. But what is so unique about it? Like, what in your mind, if you think like a Tarantino movie, you're like, okay, this is what he does that no one else does.
Polarizing is a great word to describe him. He's not pop music, man. He's rock music. You either love it or you cannot fucking stand the noise and want it turned down. I think some of the reason people hate it is definitely the violence. Definitely there's a lot of N-words thrown around for sure, and a lot of cussing and a lot of crazy dialogue where, some of these characters, Reservoir Dogs, perfect example, where like this guy is cutting a dude's ear off and torturing him, but he's dancing around is stuck in the middle with you, and you're like, God, you can't help but love this guy.
Stuck in the middle with you.
Fucking sick.
I know.
I mean, it's just that. It's either you love it or you hate it, and violence. I think he even quoted is like violence is the most fun thing to watch because if you watch violence, doesn't mean you are violent, doesn't mean you want to do that to a human being, but it's just kind of, I guess, a sick-natured human that you watch that and you're like, God, that's so fucking sick and weird, but he's making it look so fun and cool at the same time. The
Kill Bill is a great example because it's incredible choreography, and the whole time, like when people are getting stabbed through or having their limbs ripped off, you're just like, yeah, as opposed to like,
it's so much fun. And the thing is he's his own kind because usually in an action movie, if you do that, you're getting like Hobbs and Shaw or something so stupid and so many one-liners. But this is like art too when you're watching it. Very well written. He casts perfectly. I don't think he's ever miscast.
That's the crazy thing. Like, and when you hit the nail on the head, dude, he is building a roster like every single guy in the depth chart is used. Like even the ancillary character, like the Hateful Eight is a great example. Some of the smallest roles in that movie, like Michael Madsen, dude, has that guy in his life, has he ever fucking had the screen presence that he has in a Tarantino movie? No. I don't know how he gets that out of him.
And I'll have to say, as a director, I will say this. As a writer, I'm a fan of Tarantino because obviously his directing style is nothing for me to like, oh man, this is a Tarantino film because he did that. It was more his writing, his dialogue. However, I will say this about his directing. Whenever he gets an actor, even if it's like a DiCaprio or a Pitt, they're like, dude, this is a Tarantino movie. I got to show him how good I am. They like want to show him how great of an actor he is and that they didn't make a wrong decision. He gets the most. I've never seen a director get more out of his actors than a Quentin Tarantino movie. Ever.
Yeah, and I think it's because at this point, especially, he has the skins on the wall that an actor will sign on to a role with him, and they'll just trust him blindly. They'll be like, whatever you tell me to do, whatever's in the script, you fucking got it, bro. And they know that it's going to work and show up on screen the way that he envisions it. I can imagine him having like some weird sets. Like he might be an eccentric director, but dude, those are the guys that like work in Hollywood. I don't know. Those are the ones that like make the best movies, as weird as it sounds.
Once again, HBO, I mean, they're going to come out with Hard Knocks with the Oakland Raiders. I have no idea why HBO doesn't have like a behind the scenes on making movies because I would watch this. I would love to see how Tarantino interacts with a Pitt and a DiCaprio and a Robbie because as you can see, I've been watching interviews with they fucking love him. They adore him and they're like, yeah, man, I will run through a wall from this man. I would love to just see his directing style like in a documentary or something like that.
Yeah, I would watch an hour-and-a-half movie about one of his movies.
Yes, about one of the making of his movies. I just love to see, like on Hard Knocks, I love when they're stretching and they just talk about like what breakfast food they ate or something. I'd love to see what Pitt and DiCaprio talk about like in between scenes. Like what the hell talk about what the best pizza place is in LA or what do they even talk about?
Eli Roth, the Bear Jew, is like warming up, swinging the bat, like offset, and they're just talking about like, so where do you get your socks at? Like that would be shit I'd watch. The thing that I think defines Tarantino is his ability to have these scenes, like an individual scene that is longer. Most movies, you'd be like, oh my fucking God, dude. Move on to the next scene. But because his dialogue is so captivating that he can keep you locked. Like a normal scene where people are sitting at a table talking should be what, like 2 to 3 minutes?
Yeah.
He can carry on a scene for like 7 minutes because he's so good at writing dialogue. And I think that's what actors appreciate about him. A lot of times, I'm sure an actor is filming that scene like, all right, well, half of this shit is going to end up on the cutting room floor. And then Tarantino's sitting in there and he's like, dude, I want all this.
Yeah.
Look at Christoph Waltz. He's fucking like dancing circles around everyone else on screen. Yes, this is making it into my movie. I don't care if it's not like plot essential. This is incredible. People need to see this.
And every single movie he's done has been original. He hasn't done like a Lion King remake or a Batman movie. That's why I almost don't want him to do a Star Trek movie because he'd be like the last great director that's like everything I did was from my own brain. I wrote or like, I helped basically create.
And for someone who has done blockbusters, like he's not doing like art house or Sundance films, like these are all mainstream movies. He's really like the last of a dying breed. They're like, I don't know
Yeah.
if we'll ever have a director with the mass appeal and doing exclusively original ideas like Tarantino does. I know some people might hate him, but the people who love him and who are probably still listening to this podcast are Tarantino heads, just like us.
I've never met anyone that hates him, but once again, I haven't been to church in a lot of Sundays. I don't go to those. I mean, I go to bars. I go to like, and most people there like fucking love him, man. They're just like, yeah, man, it's fun to watch. And you're right. It's where those Oscar movies that we've never fucking seen that win Oscars meet the movies that make billions of dollars in our blockbusters. He's somewhere in between, and he meshes both of them so well.
Yeah, he's like the Venn diagram, the center of those two worlds. All right, before we move on, any last thoughts on Tarantino and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
To God, and that's going to be the greatest movie ever.
Yeah, it is. I mean, our review of that one, I imagine, will drop 30 minutes
Last
after.
time actually, ironically, I do have something to say. Last time I said that is the reason this pod is created, because I thought Suicide Squad. I was like, "There's no way this movie's going to be bad," and we were so pissed with the review. And 3 years and fucking almost 100 movie commentaries later, and over 1,000 subscribers and 100K views on videos, here we are. So maybe I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't know.
We were so mad when we left the theater. I was like, well, we can't afford therapy, so do you want to like record our thoughts on Suicide Squad? All right. The next part of our show is our protein shake, where we go around and talk about what is in our protein shake or our cup, also known as what have we watched lately. Now, Matt, I know for sure there are 3 things that we both watched simultaneously. So we can do 3 sort of mini reviews. How about the first one we talk about is the movie commentary we just did the other night, and that is the 1997 classic, Con Air.
Don't get too excited about this, because I don't know if we're going to drop it till like November, because we have so many things in the channel right now. But me and Jeff had a lot of fun doing this. Obviously, this movie warrants a good movie commentary. It was fun to drink to. I think we talked about how through the movie, I don't know if it knew what it was. It was supposed to be like a serious Tarantino movie, but then you have Nicolas Cage trying to do voice acting, which is always fun. But still a great movie. Very fun. Very well acted, I think. Really deep acting cast. When you got Chappelle like fifth build, Danny Treels down there. Very well. John Malkovich did a fantastic job. I actually could stand Nicolas Cage because I never really had a problem with Nicolas Cage. I'm not going to watch The Wicker Man ever, but his movies that were good. I love Gone in 60 Seconds. National Treasure, fine.
I have no quarrel with Nicolas Cage. And another reason to listen to the movie commentary when it drops is Geiger and I did our patented, as the movie goes on, we start to not only side with the villains, but actively root for them. And not ironically, like, they have a point. A la Billy Zane in Titanic, which that I have a completely new perspective on that movie. After, I mean, he's the good guy, just like Cyrus the Virus.
Any movie they're like, yeah, man, they basically hijack a plane and crash it into the Vegas Strip. I'll be like, cool. What time does it start? I mean, I'm gonna go see it. It's fantastic.
I think at one point we say they're not hurting anybody. I mean, except for like the people's throats they've slit and murdered. Aside from them, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. That's science. Everyone knows that. So Con Air, Matt and I watched. All right, Matt, what else is in your cup? What have you seen lately?
Yesterday, me and my wife saw Yesterday, which is very refreshing, fresh movie. It wasn't a remake. I know, that's insane. And you saw this too. It captivated me. That's what trailers are supposed to do. Whenever you see movies, you see these trailers that in no way, shape, or form would you have ever sought out this movie.
Superhero movies are the biggest offenders of this, of selling me a bullshit bill of goods.
Now, I love the Beatles, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't even have known this movie is be fucking made if I didn't go to the theaters and see this. Unless maybe YouTube kind of said, hey, you might dig that. But just a title of a movie called Yesterday, I would never think would be about the Beatles. If you need a little background, basically, there's a power outage. This dude falls off his bike. He's a struggling musician. He wakes up. He kind of gets his teeth back arranged. They give him a new guitar as a present. He starts playing Yesterday, and his friends are like, what the fuck is that? That's a great song. It's like, it's the Beatles, and no one knows who the fucking Beatles are. So a struggling musician basically just came over a catalog of great music that he can just record and become fucking huge. And kind of the comedy in it is he doesn't remember how some of the songs are written, which if you
It's
are
so true.
band, yeah, I couldn't. I mean, there's some songs I'm like, yeah, I could tell you every lyric. Yeah, when the music's behind it, and you're singing along with it. But if you just have no music behind it, you got to write it down. It's very difficult. The scenes where he filmed the music, like concerts, Ed Sheeran's in it. He's in Ed Sheeran. You go to Russia and play back in the USSR. On top of the hotel when he does Help, are fucking fantastic. It did what it's supposed to do. This morning I worked out and I listened to the Beatles, so it must have been pretty well done. I don't want to give away the twist, I don't think.
Yeah, well, I told you this before you saw it. Again, no spoilers here for yesterday, but there's a scene at the end of the movie that I think if you're obviously if you're going to see this movie, I think you have some cursory knowledge of the Beatles that I think you will really appreciate. At least I really appreciated it, and I thought it was in a weird way. That'll even be spoiling too much, but it was kind of like therapeutic for me to see it.
More of these movies I applaud, even if I don't like the band. Now the Beatles, I would say a pretty big fan. I'm like, they're the greatest band of all time. I'll acknowledge that. Are they in my top 10 list? Probably not. They're definitely in my top 20. However, more of these movies need to be made because millennials need to understand that people used to write their own music. There wouldn't be 100 writers writing about something that the artist knows nothing about. They'd write about their life. They'd write about their experiences, and that's what made the music so fucking good. Because then they could sit down and it's like, oh, I wrote this about a girl that left me and I was really down. I wrote this about this or that. And the Beatles, when you listen to their music, it takes you to a place and you're like, oh man, I really feel something. Not like this breathy, poppy shit that's on the fucking radio all the time now. Or Luke Bryant talking about crickets and catfish dinner. So hopefully this will intergrain and evolve into millennials saying, hey, I'm sick of this shit. I actually want some organic music that people write and feel and play their own instruments. So hopefully these movies will actually go into mainstream pop is what I'm hoping. But
And
I enjoyed it.
the thing that I really like too, and again, these are all three good movies, but Bohemian Rhapsody, The Dirt, Rocket Man, like the musical biopic is in vogue right now, and I thought this was a very unique way to sort of give us that for the Beatles, while also not having people feel like, oh, another fucking biopic, really? Like
Yeah.
like you said, it was a really original concept, and the ending, I don't think it's like they don't take like a swing for the fences. Like even if you don't like the ending, I don't think it's like a crazy enough attempt on the director's part, Danny Boyle's part, to where you'll be like that was fucking stupid. But
The ending was subtle yet very groundbreaking. I didn't know what the hell they were going to do with it, and then I actually didn't think they would do that for certain reasons, but they did, and I definitely enjoyed it. And it brings up, God, I wish we could do it because it brings up a huge, a huge
yeah,
question in society. It really does. Would you want? I won't say anything more because
yeah. Maybe next episode we can just say spoilers before it's been out for like 3 weeks. But I feel like there's still some people that might hear this and be like, all right, I want to go out to the theater and see that. All right.
Sorry, just one more thing. It brings up a question that afterwards, go have a beer with whoever you went and saw it with, because you could probably have an hour conversation about it, which I fucking dug.
Yeah, and dude, that's like why we have this podcast, because that's what we want to fucking do after we see a movie. All right, a big time movie that I know probably everybody out there watching this saw in the description or the title of the episode and said, okay, they'll talk about that. So let's do spoilers for this one, and that is Spider-Man Far From Home, which you saw, right? Yep. I saw it as well. So if you have not seen Spider-Man Far From Home, I would say fast forward like 2 minutes or so, because this one I don't really think we can talk about without getting into spoilers. So, Spider-Man Far From Home, Matt, I'll just let you get started. What were your thoughts on the final MCU entry in Phase 3, according to Kevin Feige, and the first film post-Endgame?
I enjoyed it. I will say this. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man ever. However, he is not in the best Spider-Man franchise. I still think Sam Raimi's is the best. I still do that.
That's fair.
Throw away Spider-Man 3, and you can talk about that, but they haven't made a Spider-Man 3 yet in this one, so you don't know. It might fucking suck. We can't really discuss that.
However, yeah, anybody can do the first two, and the Amazing Spider-Man's like, well, we can't. It's like, all right, well, yeah. You fucking suck.
The very first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, I think, is a top 5 comic book movie of all time, just because of how old I was and how revolutionary it was. I remember seeing it. I remember going to the pool all day and then seeing it in theaters. Me and my friends were so pumped. Now, Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, is on the same level of that. However, I think Spider-Man 2 is better than this movie. I enjoyed
Spider-Man
it.
2 is great.
Spider-Man 2 is a fucking great movie. If you haven't seen it in a while, go watch it. I mean, that's not knocking this movie at all. However, Tom Holland carries this. I love Marissa Tomei. I love Favreau in this. I really love how they connect. I love how they made Iron Man's death mean something, not just fucking kill Superman, put a fucking fake mustache on him and call it a
Iron
day.
Man's death is probably like it's the main plot point of this film, I would say.
And
Edith and like the dream and like the whole burden of that Peter feels. That's the movie.
And I love how basically they're grooming Spider-Man to not become the next Iron Man, but basically become the next leader of the new Avengers, which I love. I thought I would kind of get sick of Iron Man intruding in a Spider-Man film. No, pump the brakes. It actually makes the story. So
Did you not want to like cry again when Happy looks back and he kind of remembers Tony in his lab where Peter's like putting together his last suit? That was so fucking cool.
Now, where this movie goes off the rails for me, and I'm not saying goes off the rails where it's a bad movie, I enjoy it, is the supporting cast in this is still, I can't get over Flash Tom. Look, we're going to get to this in the Twitter question, but I have no problem. Listen, if you want, if a person is really pale of skin with red hair and you want to cast an African American, I have no problem with that. Go ahead and do it. But don't change the character's dynamic. Don't change. Mary Jane is the girl next door. She's not the I hate dad and I'm a closet metal rock fan. She's not that. So I wish that, and it's not the actress's fault. It's the writer and director that's directing her to be like that. Like, let's do this, Mary Jane. Now, switching gears on that, changing up a character like Mysterio, where basically if Spider-Man was in a room with a bunch of mirrors, would be fucking lame, and making him basically do VR is a very cool new age, new millennium way of having the character. That's warranted. But still, Mysterio as the character was still like, illusionist. So it still was along with the character. However, Gyllenhaal did great. I felt like he was basically in a Disney movie for a while, just acting with a bunch of kids sometimes.
His scene, though, in the bar where he's like, I love how he invented barf from Civil War.
Yeah.
Like how, because that is basically his illusion technology, or like his hologram technology was really cool. I thought his motivations worked. I think Gyllenhaal, he was good in this. Definitely was good in this. It's tough because, man, his motivations are, and I'm not saying I didn't like this, but his motivations are he wants revenge on Tony Stark, and he is a Spider-Man villain in the comics. So I'm kind of torn as to how I feel about that. Like, he's basically using Peter as a way to get Edith. He actually really likes Peter, I think.
See, this is the problem I have with it, is this is the only thing I'm going to say about this Iron Man thing. And some of the times I'm like, hey, this warrants the story, but both fucking Iron Man movies, the only reason we have the villain, or both Spider-Man movies, the only reason we have the villain is because Iron Man.
That is true. Yeah, the Vulture was pissed that Tony Stark had damage control, and then obviously Beck is mad that Tony shit all over his binary augmented retro framing technology.
And I don't know how many times we got to say this, Jeff, get down on one knee, part the kid's hair, and just kind of, gently punch him in the face and say, hey, Iron Man is a B-plus player in the comics. He's not shit. Spider-Man's like a number one. So after a while, I get it. Tony Stark's death means something, but that's the only problem I had, is they should have done Mysterio. I like how he invented Barf. I like how he did that, but like how he was just basically there because he hated Tony Stark. I'm like, are we going to do this like 10 years from now when Tony Stark's dead? I hate Tony Stark. I'm Rhino. We're Spider-Man.
So last thing I want to talk about, the post-credit scene. J.K. Simmons returns as J. Jonah Jameson, the Academy Award winner. So we get the Daily Bugle. What do you think they do from here? And will we ever get fucking Harry Osborn? Because I want him so bad.
Okay, when I saw this scene, it was probably way different than probably anyone else saw it, because everyone else probably saw this was really fucking cool. One thing got in my mind, I'm like, I've seen Spider-Man 5 times in the MCU, and he has not taken one picture. That's like the first thing I thought. I was like, I thought he was a photographer. I'm like, he hasn't.
So this version is more of like there's Ultimate Comics Peter, which the MCU is based on, and he is a scientist. And that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is based. Like Nick Fury is African American in that version of the comics. So that's
Okay,
what they basically based all their characters on, is the Ultimates version.
he's probably not going to work at the Bugle, I'm guessing. I'm glad to have J. Jonah Jameson back. Dude, I would. Okay, they're going to make a third Spider-Man or something. I mean, I would like Hobb or Green Goblin. I would like them to do Venom right for once. But there's a lot of other. I mean, they could do Doc Ock again. There's a lot of stuff they could do, I think. Spider-Man has fantastic.
They could do Electro a billion times better than the Amazing Spider-Man 2 did it.
Yeah, they could do that. I don't know. Tom Holland, the sky's the limit, because this is the very first time ever that he could be Spider-Man for 30 fucking years, because he came in when he was actually in high school, and he could be doing this till he's 40. And I think he's getting to do it.
Marvel has said they want to do all 3 Spider-Man movies of him in high school. So I'm assuming the next one will be centered around like graduation or something like that.
But then after that, I mean, we could be 50, Jeff, and we could have Tom Holland as like a 40-year-old doing a Miles Morales Spider-Man, which would be fucking amazing, I think.
Yeah, that would be, god damn it, that'd be fucking cool.
I love the after credit. The second one I didn't really get. I'm sure they'll explain that later.
Yeah, it's obviously the Skrulls. I don't know if you saw Captain Marvel, but they're the villains. Ben Mendelsohn returns to play Talos, and it's Nick Fury setting up Sword, which is the Shield version in space, which obviously in the comics has big tie-ins to Doctor Doom and the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
So again, I don't know where they'll go with that, but Talos is he plays the main Skrull in Captain Marvel. All right, Matt, what else is in your protein shake, or have you seen anything else lately?
I think that's pretty much all I've seen. But Spider-Man: Far From Home, go see it. Just go see it. It's fantastic. Yesterday, if you kind of liked our review, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. I think you should go see that too. And always go watch Con Air. It's on TV.
I remember my fiance is still really pissed off because there's an Ed Sheeran original song in the Yesterday movie that like they're not releasing the name of it for some reason. It's like a fucking secret. She's like, I just want to quote unquote buy, definitely not illegally download. I want to buy the song, and they won't tell people what it's called.
Awesome.
Like, what kind of marketing is that?
It's brilliant because people want what they can't have, especially nowadays.
I know.
When you can have anything you want.
Just dangle that fucking carrot in front of us that we can't have. I watched one other movie. Again, they don't pay me to say this yet. Fucking return my emails, but I have AMC A-list, so I get to go see 3 movies a week. And I saw the Ari Aster written and directed, the guy who did Hereditary movie, Midsommar, which was getting a ton of buzz as like the hot new like psychological thriller horror movie. And this movie fucked me up. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you, so if you haven't seen it, you don't have to skip ahead. But the base of the plot is there's this group of 4 friends. They're like grad students, and one of Jack Rayner plays kind of the main guy, a dude named Christian, and his girlfriend. They've been together about 4 years, and he's kind of thinking about breaking up with her. And she suffers a family tragedy, and they're all going to this festival in Sweden with one of their roommates who is from Sweden. And they think it'll be a great summer vacation for him. They bring her along with them, and they get there, and they start to realize that the small community that he's from and kind of what the whole festival is about is a little bit fucked up. And things start to spiral out of control. People start to do things they wouldn't normally do. And I'll just say this, man, as far as like endings to movies that stick with you, this one's pretty fucked up. And I walked out of the theater like a little bit affected by it. I told Cycly to go see it. It was like middle of the day on a Tuesday or Wednesday, I can't remember which, and it was like me and one other dude in the theater. We both kind of walked out and looked at each other like, and shook our head like, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. And it's not that it's like gory or anything. It's just like the shit that happens. You're like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
Likely didn't return our text either. You think he watched? You think he's okay? You might be.
I worry about him. The problem with Cycly is his wife is just as game to watch these movies as he is. So there's no one in his life, and his sister's the same way. There's no one in his life to be like, I don't know, that movie kind of sounds fucked up. Maybe you shouldn't go see it. Everybody's like, well, when is there a showing in 30 minutes? He surrounds himself with like-minded people. In this
it's always dangerous.
Go read, my Letterboxd review on Midsommar. Again, no spoilers there. Would I recommend it? If you liked Hereditary, I think you'll definitely like this. I'm just too fucked up after watching this. I don't know if I can watch another Ari Aster movie. I don't feel good about myself. And that's really all I can say without spoiling it about Midsummer. All right, before we go on to the last part of our show, Banner is not here, so Matt, is there something you wanted to ask me?
Do you even live, bro?
Okay. Yeah, see, we can't
I'm
do
not
it.
going to try it. Last time Banner yelled at me because I was premature on it. So I'm one. Once you like put me down, I just throw in the towel and will not try anymore. I'm not
Yeah,
a person.
he's like the dad in Little League that's like trying to teach you how to hit, and then he makes you stop the fucking game so he can come out there and like work with you on your hand placement. Like, Dad, this is embarrassing. And that
Lawrence is listening to this is like, wow, Geiger kind of mailed in that do you even lift, bro, didn't he?
She's like, see, even the best do it.
Yeah, even the best do it. Go see Dark Phoenix. Everyone else hasn't.
Oh wait, it's already out of theater after 4 weeks. By the way, that lost more money than the Josh Trank Fantastic Four.
Isn't that amazing? That's actually should get a medal for that. That's hard to do, actually. That's not easy to do.
Quick digression. I saw some tweet the other day. It's like, other shitty movies are already mad at Dark Phoenix for sweeping the Razzies that haven't even happened yet. All right, that brings us to our question and answer segment, also called Do You Even Lift Bruh? Where we dig up a question or questions from around the internet and talk about them on our show. And our question today comes to us from someone with maybe the coolest name that we've ever found a question from on the pod, and that is Michael Blade, which is badass, at Michael B. Writer. And he asks, what are some of the factors or pet peeves that makes you like or dislike a film? Mine, big budget, no story. And do you think it's time for Hollywood to return to the $30 to $75 million movies? So, Michael, great point. When you go into a movie a la Dark Phoenix, where they've spent a fuck ton of money on the movie, and there's seemingly no plot. So they just did it to get big actors in the movie and then blow shit up. So, Geiger, I'm really anticipating your answer here for a pet peeve in films. What is yours?
I would think everyone already knows what the fuck it is. It's Hollywood taking the shit we love, a la comic books, a la Star Wars. I'll just use those two examples at first. And then the director saying, I can't wait to put my own spin on this. If you want to be creative,
God,
do Tarantino and come up with your own shit.
Call out the person you're directly speaking to, though. Say his name.
That's so fucking stupid. That'd be like me, like, you know, you give me a script on Batman. It's like, oh, I can't wait to be creative with this and make Batman an actual bat or something like that.
And so, Ryan Johnson, if you're listening, we're fucking talking about you shithead.
Example. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Example. So taking Star Wars and just because it's the Me Too movement, making Leia fly. Like, what the fuck is that? And also don't make stuff that's popular in pulp culture right now relevant in the movies, because in 30 years, I'm sorry to tell you, no one's going to give a fuck. Like,
that's the problem with South Park, is if you go watch an episode from 10 years ago, you're like, what the fuck is that joke?
Yeah, why? Yeah, I don't even get it at all. Venom. Oh, let's make a dark Venom movie. Wait, it's coming in February? God, we really need like a rom-com kind of chick flick movie. Well, let's just make Venom that. And let's make Venom and Love kind of have a relationship with Venom. I'm like, that makes no fucking sense. Just Hollywood trying to basically make a comic book movie something it's not. And we already talked about this with Spider-Man Far From Home with Mary Jane. It doesn't make any fucking sense. She's not like that. And her and Tom Holland don't even really go together because of the way she plays the character.
And again, we're not talking about being progressive and casting minorities. We're talking about, like, don't change a character.
She's fine. She looks the part. That's fine. I
love Zendaya. She's just not playing Mary Jane, you know?
Yeah, but she's not playing Mary Jane. She's playing something that some studio heads like, I can't wait to put my own spin on Mary Jane. You already did. You casted African-American actress. Fantastic. That's great. She is a great actress, but the way you're having it play it is fucking stupid. It's not Mary Jane. It makes no goddamn sense. That's my biggest pet peeve ever, is whenever, you know, you read these comics, you fall in love with these comics, and I get directors, they're very creative. That's why they're doing their job. But, you know, Ryan Johnson, be creative on this movie you have with fucking Chris Evans coming up. Fantastic. That's great. Good for you. But Star Wars, stay close to the script, man, because you didn't create it. Someone else that's very creative created it.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a time and a place to put your spin on things, and I'm not sitting here being the guy who's like, you ruined the thing that I like. I'm just saying, when you take creative liberties with stuff that, like, people go into the theater expecting to see even a certain type of character, and it's like, what is this? It's confusing, and it's like you're basically luring me into the theater at the premise of like, this is a character and IP, and then you're throwing your art house film or take on me, which is a bait and switch. And if Time Warner Cable did that to me, I'd call them and bitch about it too, as I should. My pet peeve is not as big a thing as that, but it's really choppy pacing or like really bad editing. And the example I have is actually from a movie that I really like, and it righted the ship. But dude, the first like 15 minutes of Rogue One, where we're in like 7 different locations, movies that jump around like that, it bothers the fuck out of me. And again, that movie figured it out, and it righted the path. But there are movies where you can tell in the editing room they were just fucking yanked back and forth by people, and it gets like Justice League, for example. That's a bad example because it had 2 directors and obviously the Zack Snyder problem. But tonally, like that thing is all over the fucking place. So like movies with bad pacing and like tonal shifts that don't make any sense drive me up a goddamn wall. Where you can tell it's like art by committee. There's 7 dudes in the editing room, all just taking their turn at it, and it doesn't feel like one film. It feels like 7 different things cobbled together, like glued, and then shipped out to the movie theater for me to watch.
We're saying Con Air was a little bit about that because of the acting. Like some of the actors were taking it really serious, and some of them I think were trying to, but were coming off tricky. And Suicide Squad had that problem where at first it was really dark, and then it was just like really, choppy. I'll have to say, Marvel. Some people could probably even make an argument Marvel has that problem. I think they do it very well, how they go from joke to serious and stuff, and I think tonally it makes sense. DC tries to do that, and it's probably your biggest pet peeve because it is a fucking jumbled up mess where it's like, is this a funny movie or a dark movie? I'm not really understanding what.
Well, you can just tell that like the director brought in their cut, and usually it's the studio like add some humor to it. Like,
yeah.
But this is a serious scene. Like, I think we got there's a few seconds where there could be a joke. Somebody could fart, and they're like, what? Farting? Thanks for the question, Michael. That was a good one. And
throw in the towel. Just make them fart. That's funny.
It's always, or have someone get hit in the balls. Like, what are we doing here? Jack Black's not available for this. All right, Matt, before we part, or depart, I guess both, for our 82nd episode, any closing thoughts for the fans out there?
Did you say Jack Black, that Jumanji 2 trailer? Why are we even doing this?
Like, no, but they're each different characters this time. So
is
it's
that
like
Jumanji 2 or 3?
If you count the Robin Williams one, it's 3.
Okay, all right, I don't. Okay, I thought there was actually another one with The Rock. Well, what is The Rock doing? Like, what is he?
Do you think The Rock occasionally will like wake up in the morning, wash his face, and look in the mirror and be like, "The fuck have you become?"
Do you think Samuel Jackson like texts him like, "Dude, you need to like pick your roles a little"?
By the way, as much as we shit on it, and it's going to be horrible, but I'm so excited for Hobbs and Shaw just because it's going to be so bad. But they keep showing in the trailer the scene where The Rock has a chain tied to a helicopter, and of course he like is holding it and like throws the helicopter into the ground.
Which would be insane. And then I just love that The Rock is going to beat the shit out of a basically superhuman person in Idris Elba, which is fucking awesome. But that movie, I'm actually just as excited to see as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I'll probably go with you and we'll be drunk and we'll just be high-fiving and be like, yeah, that could happen. Why not?
Oh, God. Awesome. That one is, if we need to just do a commentary in the theater with 200 other people getting fucking pissed at me. Pissed at us. Like, you guys, are you actually doing that in the middle of this movie?
Yeah.
All right.
Trailers.
All right. For our enforcer in the paint, Matt Geiger, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Please follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad. Check out all of our reviews on letterboxd.com. Just type in Bro Force Squad, 3 separate words. Type in those same 3 words on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Find us there and subscribe to us. Check out all of our content on our website, broforcesquad.com. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you at the movies. I'm Black Superman. And I'm just like, you're literally beating me over the head with the character here.
So you gotta tell me about
Midsummer?
Yeah. I need